I just want to frame this conversation before we jump into it. Alex, first off, thanks for coming on the podcast. Super stoked about this one. We talked a little bit before we started about how we kind of connected about 5 to 6 years ago, if I recall correctly, early in the Albi days. But since then, we haven't really connected, aside from online. And a recent hot button topic kind of brought us back together. So I thought it'd be fun if we had just a quick conversation, quick 60 minutes or so, to just talk about the things that we found that we agreed on. And through the conversation, we may find some things that we disagree on. And I think that's great, honestly, that we can have the conversations about things that we may disagree on. So I'm excited about it. I just want to frame it, though, just to make sure that we're on the same page, but also to set it up for anybody that might be listening. This is not about bashing anyone. This is just to have 100%. An open, honest, frank conversation. And just to let everybody know that you and I share commitment to have open conversations to move things forward, whatever that looks like. And I think we're, in some senses, maybe starting to figure out what that looks like with the landscape that we're working with now. So that aside, I'd like to just start, for those that don't know you, just introduce yourself, a few minutes about your background. I know you and your father grew a restoration business together. So talk about that, and then we can jump into like how that has shifted into the software space.
Yeah, absolutely. And dude, I'm pumped to be here. I'm glad we connected over that topic, which we could talk about a little bit. And like my favorite part is all the parties involved in that so-called argument were cordially respecting each other. And that was just awesome, right? It
Phenomenal.
definitely wasn't a bash session. And it's definitely like, hey, like I believe in this potential bright future, and everybody has positive intent, which is great.
Absolutely.
But yeah, my backstory, I mean, I grew up in restoration. My dad was a subcontractor for some of the largest restoration companies in Chicago. So ever since I was probably like 10 to 11, I would see fire damaged houses that my dad and his team would put back together. Straight out of high school, my father and I decided to go and become the GC. So we started a full service restoration company here in the Chicagoland market. We still own that, Rum Exterior Restoration. For those of you guys that are curious to check it out, 8-figure company, a couple million of EBITDA, I don't know, 70 to 80 employees here in the Chicagoland space. Throughout my journey of building a restoration company, I realized that tech within the space was outdated, and I saw a lot of other industries and the type of tech that they had, and believed that restorers deserve something similar. And Albi started as a pet project for our restoration company. Let's see if we could solve our tech problems. And then that just turned into this large revolution within the tech space, which I'm super excited about. And yeah, ever since starting Albi, I've written the book Restoration Millionaire. If you guys are curious to find out more about my journey, you guys can read it there. But it's essentially soup to nuts, all of the struggles and all of the highs and the lows of building a restoration company. So that's kind of a 5-minute voiceover on who I am.
And now a real quick word from our sponsors, which happens to be us, Restoration Business Academy.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, I encourage you to use the link in the description below to join Restoration Business Academy. There's a small group of restoration professionals who are leveling up their business. They're finishing jobs and collecting payment. Their cash flow is phenomenal. Their receivables have been slashed, and they're looking to run their restoration business different from how the industry tells you that you have to run it. All they look for is freedom. All they want is the ability to run a good business and get paid. We've come up with a way to do that. It's inside of Restoration Business Academy. It's our client onboarding course. You can do it in your time. Also, with a subscription, you get access to me, Toby, or Clark, or another coach based on your needs, and we can help you implement the system really quickly in your business. It's simple, but it's not easy, and we're here to help. So no, I appreciate that. How's your view of the industry changed from your youth when you were just getting into it to how it is today?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into the industry and being in the trenches and feeling all the struggles, there was a very, I guess, pessimistic view, right? It was more like a victim mindset, woe is me. because you're going through all these struggles, you're seeing the insurance companies, and there's this big illusion that the insurance companies have control. And there's all these like just negative, unproductive mindset things that I think restorers go through. And also, like when I entered into the industry, I think, blue collar was still, I guess, lower than white collar, right? So there's these like societal barriers that we go through. And I think from there, I went on my own like personal, help journey and self-worth journey. And I got to the other end where I see restoration as this bright industry. I see that restorers actually have the leverage. I see blue collar actually has the power. And now I just see possibility. I see opportunity. And one of my favorite quotes that I think changed my mindset there is just this concept of possibility always exists. Limitation is always created. So yeah, my dream for every single restorer is for us to change the dialogue and be careful with the words that we use. And when we struggle and we go through these battles, it's our choice whether we want to suffer and create this negative, woe is me, doomsday, or if it's the same choice that we have to say, hey, no, this is an opportunistic industry. I'm in charge here. I'm the restorer. I'm the one that's needed. So,
yeah, I think on some levels I'll agree kind of with that that world or industry view, maybe not worldview, but industry view. But we've seen industries where they've been completely consumed by the carriers, and they have been more or less shut down in many senses. Now, are there fringe? We'll just take automotive, right? Are there fringe automotive shops that can operate outside of that? Sure. And maybe that's what you're referring to. But by and large, that entire industry has been locked down. I say locked down. Maybe that's a bad choice of words. But they are completely controlled. And I actually have family in that business. And we talk about it often. So on some levels, I see what you're saying. Yes, there's opportunity. Yes, you can do what you want outside of it. But they make it very difficult, very, very difficult. And I think where this conversation and others online have kind of started to take hold is that we're trying to avoid that blanket oversight being cast on all restorers.
Absolutely.
So I think might be one area where maybe I'm misunderstanding. So maybe you have some thoughts on that.
So I love this concept, and I love when people talk about healthcare and automotive. And I have two things that I've learned from the healthcare and automotive space. And one is, yes, you're right. Majority of automotive and healthcare are managed repair equivalents, right? The hospital networks and stuff like that. But what I've learned is that those models didn't really help the carriers much. If we look at it, the carriers are kind of equally struggling with profitability. So it's like whether we can control the process or not control the process, we're still kind of screwed. So fundamentally, there may be another monster hiding in our closet as carriers, and us controlling the industry might not really come to our benefit. So I'll kind of sprinkle that out there. The second thing that I'll note is that while automotive was being controlled by the carriers, while healthcare was being controlled by the carriers, for whatever reason, restoration has not, the carriers have not had equal success within this industry. And we've done a lot of market studies, and I've read a lot of market studies at Albiware. We just spent $300,000 during our due diligence for our Series B to do a market study. Like less than 20 to 30% is managed repair or somehow controlled directly by by the insurance carriers, which is a beautiful thing. And when I look at the wave of private equity coming into this place, where I look at the thought leadership within the space and such, there doesn't seem to be a huge push in the other direction, which makes me very happy. And it makes me very optimistic that restoration will not end up like managed repair and healthcare. And that's what I think we have to, like, as an industry, band together and work towards, which I think leads us to our next topic.
Interesting. Okay. No, that's very interesting to hear that perspective with all the research that you've done, that you don't feel like at the end of the day, you don't see it going the direction that a lot of independents are very afraid of.
Well, the question is, if it were to go, why hasn't there been traction so far? I mean, I went to Alacrity's conference and Contractors Connections conference, which are the largest TPAs, and they're sitting there on stage boasting about how much revenue they've given to their network, which is exciting, but it was sub $1 billion each, right? Let's go triple that to include all the ServPro, PureCleans, whatever. I mean, on the smallest end, we're in a $60 to $70 billion industry on the low end. So we're saying 3 to 4 billion is being managed, repaired out of that. Now, there's certain perceptions. This is what we have to understand too. It's like, oh, well, ServPro identifies as TPA, right? And they have 2,000 locations. Well, all their locations are super small. Like the average restoration franchisee doesn't really make it over $1.5 million to 2 million of revenue. Our industry is very much independent restoration contractor focused, very much so.
Yeah.
And by independent, we're talking about non-franchise and non-TPA, but there's this voice in the industry that is very loud from the franchise and the non-TPA land, because they're the ones making all the headlines, that makes us feel like, oh, that's the reality. But look over every study. Again, all these private equity companies, talk to private equity companies, because they all do studies with people that are way smarter than you and I, right? Mm-hmm. You could talk to me. I mean, we're going to probably launch our report, just completely to the industry, because I think it's the best state of the industry report there ever is. They talked to I think 900 to 1,000 different participants and took a bunch of data and triangulated it. But I think I am super strong on the fact that currently in the state of the industry, TPAs, claims, although it's part of our day-to-day and it is that thorn in our side, they don't necessarily control the industry. Less than 30% goes through managed repair.
Interesting perspective for sure. If you had to describe it, and we kind of touched around this, but describe the state of the industry in a sentence or two. Summarize it from your perspective, with all the reports and things that you just referenced. Yeah. I'm curious to hear kind of what your overall sense of where the industry is and where it's going.
Yeah. I think the simplest thing that I would say is the status quo is dying, whether we like it or not. I think our industry was very shielded, I guess, and the status quo just kept going for time because there wasn't any external things coming into our industry. And if you look at I guess our industry was founded in, call it the 40s, 50s, right? And then there was just these generations of people handing the businesses over and coalitions of the old way of doing things. And now there's a lot of new coming within the industry. And I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but what I'm going to say is what got us here is not going to get us to the future. And a lot of those
things
that
all the time. I use that all the time.
Yeah, a lot of those things are just dying. I mean, back in the day, there was a heavy push on, technical knowledge, which, by the way, is very important in our industry. Mm-hmm. But you and I both know that we have, our industry so fragmented, with most restorers getting stuck at $1 to $2 million of revenue because they love the technical knowledge. They gobble that up, but they know nothing about the business knowledge.
And they refuse to invest in the business.
Exactly. Yeah. So that status quo is dying, right? You either evolve or you're going to dissolve, not to use cliches, but that's the reality.
Sure. So kind of to tag off of that, if you were to say where you see restorers losing out on opportunity, would it be that, or would you see that as something different?
Yeah, I mean, I think just sophistication is what we're lacking as an industry. There's no differentiation between restoration contractors, and it's a huge opportunity. If I were to envision the industry 5 years from now, you're going to get the status quo kind of dying and getting crushed down. You're still going to get a segment of the TPA people that believe that, hey, I don't need to market, I don't need to do whatever, I'm just going to hop on this managed repair hamster wheel, and that's fine. But I think there's going to be the modern restorer is going to kind of come to force, and that's going to be very differentiated. You're going to see a different value prop. You're not going to see BBB A+ rated 24/7 emergency response, IICRCS 500 certified or whatever on websites anymore. You're going to see restorers differentiating based on different things. You're probably going to see the money model shifting. And that's where I think, restorers have the choice. They have the choice to sign this work authorization that has no material consideration and play the whole "we bill your insurance company" game just because that's easy. And then there's going to be restorers, big and small, that are going to choose to play a different game from, hey, there's actually a material consideration with a deposit up front at the time of work, to there's going to be cash on delivery to restorers. There are cash on delivery restorers right now that nobody talks about. There's $5 to $10 million shops that are financing everybody. They're doing cash on delivery with everybody, right? And they're saying, hey, look, insurance company, here's my receipt. You can go figure it out. And
Yeah.
if we look at how the system was designed back in the 90s and up till now, if we read an insurance policy, it's based on cost incurred.
Yep.
And our fundamental problem in the industry is we are not incurring costs.
We forget
We're
that.
sending an estimate.
Yeah.
And
we forget that.
Yeah, and adjusters exist to adjust. Adjust what?
Yeah.
Our estimates. Which way do you think they're going to adjust them?
Well,
so it's just
yeah.
And
And one of the things that kind of hit, like really sparked off a little bit more feeling than I anticipated was the change in definition. To just rabbit trail for a second, you said estimates, adjusting estimates. Well, estimate is by definition something that you do beforehand.
Exactly.
But it's interesting to hear you say that there from another outsider, because sometimes it feels like Clark and I talk in an echo chamber at times, and telling these people that, hey, you can collect a deposit up front, you can bill for cost incurred, you can get a draw, all those things. And to hear you say from your perspective, working with a whole other pool of restorers than we do, that there's $5 to $10 million shops out there that are doing just that process.
Yeah.
So it just reinforces that we're contractors.
Yep.
We're highly technical contractors in many senses of the word, but we don't have to operate any differently.
Absolutely.
So that very interesting to hear you say that. And again, another reason I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So,
and Toby, it doesn't matter if we're a part of the insurance claim ecosystem, because check this out. The plumber that came in before the restorer to handle the collapsed sewer pipe that caused the sewage backup in the basement, right? And that collapsed sewer pipe digging down to the pipe was covered by the insurance, right? And what did that plumber do? He came in, or she, right, to be politically correct, charged the customer $20,000 either via financing, whatever. And then the customer took that bill, tendered it to the insurance company. It was cost incurred. We're not going to pay to fix the pipe, but we'll pay for the excavation. And they got paid. So regardless of if we're a part of this claim cycle and involved within it, with or without insurance, like, we should operate as contractors first.
Yes, 100%. And this kind of dives into another point that was made that I think a lot of people took issue with. We're part of the claims process. We're not part of the claims industry, and we can, will, and have survived without insurance in the past.
Yes.
And I think that's a very important distinction. And I just, on some levels, it actually saddens me that we've come to this place where we're being told that we can't exist without insurance. And I just don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. And I hope that the perspective of the industry leaders can shift, maybe not change completely, but at least shift to say we're part of the process, but we are not part of the industry. So,
so check this out. So yes,
I'm all ears.
I agree with this.
I'm all ears.
And back to self-worthiness, right? The words that we use are very, very, very important. And
absolutely,
the agenda and the propaganda used can make us feel less about ourselves or more about ourselves. But I actually think insurers are fucked. Pardon my French, screwed. We could bleep it out without restorers. Because check this out, right? There's 30,000 to 50,000 restorers that could potentially do work, right, to fix these houses after damage, right? Imagine if magically there's only 5,000. They all died off for whatever reason, right? There's a mass extinction of restorers, just like dinosaurs. Well, now if there's only 5,000 restorers and there's all this claims volume or properties that are getting damaged, it's going to be a lot more expensive to fix those houses because there's scarce amount of restorers. They're going to cherry pick, right? So insurance companies are kind of screwed in that case. Or better yet, there's nobody to fix the losses. So if I'm toast and my property is burnt down anyway, why do I need insurance to fix it? Because there's nobody to fix it, right? So I'll
just do it myself.
Yeah, that's the restorers dead dichotomy, right? Now let's go paint another image. Insurance is gone. Oh no, right? Terrible thing. And by the way, insurance is a very valuable asset.
Absolutely.
But let's play this. What happens? Well, we have a lot of people will be affected. Don't get me wrong. But these property owners, their number one assets, what? Their properties. They have to live within their property, right? Yep. So they're going to have to fix their property one way or the other. And we actually see this when the insurance companies go to Katrina and say, oh, that's too big of a loss. We're going to just pop out. Or when they go to the wildfires and they say, too much. Let's just do the legal battle instead, right? What do the restorers do? Well, those properties need to get fixed. They have equity within their properties. The average American has purchasing power for the average claim. The average claim's $15,000. The average American can finance themselves for $15,000 to put their property back together. Ooh, so who's really important here? And that's why I believe of speaking into the industry. The restorer is important.
Yeah, agree.
And we're sitting here and getting not brainwashed, because I guess that's negative, but like, if we choose to identify as a claims industry, we choose to say, hey, without claims, we don't exist. And that is false. Right.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about this shifting narrative. And we didn't really talk about the root of it, but in my mind, the shifting the narrative, shifting the definitions is all about control.
Yeah.
It's all about 100%. Control. And that's just for clarity, for those that listen to this podcast and may have seen my comments on the post that I'm talking about, I related it to authoritarian or tyrannical regimes, right? Mm-hmm. And that was taken out of context. I think some people may have gotten their feelings hurt, and by no means, I want to state this for the record, by no means was I calling the people tyrants or authoritarian. I'm saying the tactics being used by the system are tactics that are used by historical regimes that I was referencing. So I've had dinner with one of the individuals, and I've met and talked with the other individual. Both great people. People. I like them as people. Some of the tactics being used, I'm at a minimum uncomfortable with. I can say I don't like them. So I just want to state for the record, I'm not calling these people tyrants. I'm not calling them authoritarian. I'm just saying the tactics being used by the system are that. And that all came from the whole claims industry. And what you were referencing was a really interesting point about the mindset. About if we believe that we're part of the claims industry, now all of a sudden our behaviors start to change. And I think that's what the system is actually looking for. And I think that's what the voices are resisting against, is being blanketed as, oh, we're now part of the claims industry, therefore we have to follow their program. No, I'm an independent restorer. I think this is what we're getting to is I'm an independent restorer, fair, reasonable, OSHA, IICRC. If we have those 4 words kind of in our thought process, we're doing some pretty damn good work.
So here's the other thing though. So one of my close friends, Watley, you maybe know him, right? And I have talked about this and we've powwowed about this, and he started seeing my viewpoint, but originally, like, I think all of these individuals have positive intent. And I just think in general, it's good to assume positive intent, right? It gets a little negative for us if we assume negative intent from other people. But I genuinely think like Jeff Moore is a good dude, being the person who calls it the claims industry, and his dream for the RIA is well intended. I think what he's unaware of is that the statements that he's making and the words that he's choosing to use can have that negative effect that he probably doesn't intend. And I still don't think he understands even now the byproduct of what he's saying. But yeah, I just think it's like, we're all trying to make this industry a better place. Watley even thought, like, back in the day, it's like, hey, look, like maybe carriers and insurance companies and restorers could coexist and hold hands and kumbaya. And they tried for 15 to 20 years. That didn't work. And now Watley's like, maybe it doesn't work, right? We're talking about a guy who owns an independent restoration company, is very passionate restorer first, but also navigates the InsurTech ecosystem. So I think, again, it's probably not very intentional. And I don't think anybody's out here to screw restorers. I also don't know if like the carriers are like, mwahaha, let's get our marketing departments to come up with claim industry and start leaking that. I think they have bigger fish to fry. I think it's an unintended consequence that's happening. And I think it's important for us to say, look, like we don't like that label. Labels create. I am a restorer. I am a restoration contractor. I'm a part of a $80 billion industry, which, by the way, service plumbing is 30 to 40 billion. So next time you think about, oh, plumbers are bigger than restorers, it's a larger industry, the grass is greener on the other side. Statistically, it's not. So
interesting. Let's kind of bring it down to individual restoration businesses a little bit. What do you see in all the conversations you're having and your people are having with restorers? What's one of the most misunderstood aspects of running a business for somebody that might be thinking about getting into it?
Misunderstood aspects. I mean, it depends on the person, but I think the three main challenges in restoration after, again, our team talks to thousands of restorers is lead flow, cash flow, and people. Those are the three. So lead flow is how do you make the phone ring? Do you have, then there's that whole conflict of, do I join a TPA to get the phone to ring, which is false. There's multiple 8-figure companies built off of relationships between plumbing, online marketing. There's a lot of companies doing 8 figures of work just off of online marketing, right? Then cash flow. And I think that ties to the money model, like not to tie it to pop culture, but Alex Hormozy just wrote a book about the money model. And I was like, dang, that's so good. It's like businesses die, not because of culture, people, sales, whatever, all the stuff that we coaches love talking about. Businesses die because they run out of money. Yeah. It's like, okay, so the money model in restoration is broken, and that's the cash flow issue. Mm-hmm. And even if you're playing the insurance game, most people don't understand that you have to, invoice within 24 hours and follow up, every 48 hours until it's paid. And then most people don't understand that you could just choose to change your money model. And yes, take a deposit up front. And yes, finance, like at bare minimum, you should take the deposit up front. The homeowner has a deductible, an uncovered amount that they have to pay anyway. Why aren't we taking that up front? That'll cover, at least our customer acquisition costs and part of our COGS, right? And then the people problem. Most people don't understand how to build the people to build the business. And just because you're world class at going out there, you as an owner, signing up the customer and making the customer happy, business at scale, you can't really do that. You can't run a $10 million company by you visiting every single customer. So it's like, how do you build the people to go build other people to go build the business? So yeah, I don't know if that helped, but that's how I would.
No, that's phenomenal. That's if I was to pick three, I think I would pick those exact same, because we get calls all the time. We don't tend to operate in the marketing space. We're operations and business infrastructure is where we kind of hone in. But people are calling us all the time, like, can you fix my lead problem? And we're like, nope, but call us back when you do, because we'll help you figure out how to fulfill those leads, right? Yep. But in right behind that is the people. But before that, you've got to have a structure to put those people into. Otherwise, they're going to be calling you constantly. You're going to become the bottleneck because you probably started in the truck and you don't know how to get out of the truck. So all those things tie into exactly the issues that we see from our perspective as well. So that's phenomenal. So from your perspective, we've talked about independent. We've kind of talked about the carrier line contractors or managed care. How do you see those coexisting? Can they coexist? Or are we headed towards some kind of split in the industry where it's like it's either or?
What do you mean by coexist? Like be in the same room?
I think as a business, can you have organic and managed care services within the same business?
I think you can have a blend. A lot of people obviously do it. And actually most carrier or TPA oriented businesses aren't 100% TPA oriented. I just don't understand why you would want to, because I feel like once you understand how to not do vendor work and build a sales and marketing function that funnels in work from outside of the TPA world, which is the art, I just don't understand why you would want all that other work. And then there's also the conflict of certain TPAs wanting to manage the job through the same process despite where it came from. So that just doesn't really make sense to me. And I've actually, believe it or not, I was a rebel, like hardcore rebel, like F the insurance, like 10 years ago. Now I've become more like in the middle, I would say. And I actually considered, like, what about adding TPAs as a growth lever at our restoration business after seeing one of my buddies that runs a 100% TPA shop. And the answer came back to no. It just, I don't know. Like, why would I want to? Why would I want to dilute my beautiful margins? Why would I want to double pay on this stuff? Because again, I'd rather open up another location. I'd rather, open up another marketing channel. So yeah.
We see the same thing, and we get that question a lot. Should I use that as a lever to grow my business? And our answer is the same, and this is another area we're aligned. Is why would you? You're sacrificing margin. You're adding a lot of overhead in. Most of the time, it's in people to manage the programs. So, do you want a people-heavy business with low margins, or do you want to just keep it lean and mean? And for the independent-minded folks, the answer is obvious. So,
well, here's the other thing. There's an illusion that the independent person considering vendor work has, and that's, I join Contractor Connection Alacrity and the switch turns on and now I have a bunch of leads. And the answer is that's not what happens. They have a hierarchy system. So keep in mind, these programs can only scoop up, like, call it 2 out of 10 jobs. And they have a hierarchy system where they feed most of those jobs to their best performing, longest tenured contractors within the market, right? So you'll basically, in Chicagoland, all state work goes to GC Pro, for example, with my buddy Mike Smolensky, right? If I joined Alacrity tomorrow, I probably wouldn't see much work from there. So that's like another illusion to keep in mind. It's like, I'd rather spend that time, energy, and effort to go, again, unlock plumbers or unlock commercial property management or online marketing or whatever it might be.
Yeah. If you like the systems and processes that we're talking about in this video, then you're going to want to get to Richmond, Virginia on November 5th and 6th. We've got a 2-day class where we're going to break down and unpack our entire client onboarding course and system. If you're tired of the headache of fighting for every cent that you're owed, if you're tired of negotiating on work that's already complete, if you're tired of your bills being slashed and the customer being in the dark constantly, we're going to teach a small group of restorers how they can get paid for the work that they're owed in full and on time every single time. It's a proven system. We have the data, we have the social proof, we have the testimonials. You're going to want to join us November 5th and 6th. Link in the description below. See you there. In your mind, what defines independent restoration?
Yeah, I think not part of managed repair, not part of a franchise group, not part of a PE group or any other network. Although it gets a little hairy because like trusted restorer networks or mastermind groups or whatever, I wouldn't put into that bucket. I would be more like, like core, any of the franchise groups. If you're owned by a PE company or partially owned by a PE company, you technically aren't independent.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we tend to think of it as the mindset. So like we work with every color truck. And there's several franchise groups that allow their franchisees to operate very independently. So that's typically how we define it. In terms of our conversations with people, I don't know that there's a right or wrong per se, but we've seen franchise groups that allow their folks to be very independent minded. So
911, Restoration One, right? I mean, even Surf Pros. I met a lot of surf pros that don't necessarily, they say, I don't want to be on your national account or whatever. It's
a whole different ballgame, though. That's a whole different conversation. What's one thing that you see that can erode a contractor's independence without them realizing it?
I didn't join the TPA programs or whatnot. That's one. Getting yourself into it. So he who needs nothing cannot be controlled. It's like on my vision board. So the minute you need something from somebody, then you can be controlled or not dependentized. So, if you think about, people, it's like, I need leads, so I'm going to join this group, or I need, I'm running out of cash. I'm sick and tired of everything and I just need freedom. So I'm going to flash sell my business. Like, I don't think it's smart to, flash sell your business. I think you intentionally create a process and get multiple bidders around to create a market to get the best price for your business at the all-time high. Like, I don't think you should ever sell your business at a low. So in general, I think making sure that you never need anything from anyone, and it's more of a introspective exercise to do, because at the end of the day, you don't ever, right? You don't need anything to be happy. You don't need anything to be grateful, like we talked about at the beginning of this call and such. And I think the minute you you have that, ooh, I need somebody for that, or if this happens, then this, and that conditionality kicks in. That's when dependence kicks in, because the nature of needing something from somebody is the definition of dependence.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. We cliche term, scarcity versus freedom, right? And that scarcity mindset, I think, is what you're referring to. Anytime you're in a mode where you feel like you need something, you start making decisions that probably aren't the best long-term decisions. So I think I would agree with that. Let's move a little bit more into your space. What role does technology play in helping restorers stay independent? And how do you see that changing over the next 3 to 5 years as AI becomes so much more of a bohemian?
Ooh, I love this. So I think technology drives efficiency. Efficiency drives cash flow. Cash flow, eliminates dependencies, right?
Yeah.
So just to sum it up that way, and what AI is doing is bananas. So some people may not know, but I invest in restoration companies, and one of my buddies and I started this. I don't know how to identify it, but we're building the first tech-enabled restoration company. It's called Longview, and there's actually 90 or so other tech-enabled ... companies, so services companies and plumbing, HVAC, so on and so forth. And essentially, what AI is allowing us to do is make a software company and a restoration company have a baby, which is actually really bananas. So to kind of double click on this a little bit, software companies trade on revenue multiples, right? So like Uber does $1 billion of revenue, so they're worth 10x that, right? Even Albi, right? Like we are worth 14x our annual reoccurring revenue, right? And you look at restoration companies, they're worth an EBITDA multiple. So if you're like super tiny, sub $1 million of EBITDA, you're worth between 3 to 5x. If you're, over $1 million and you can get to the Guardians and the Peaks of the world or whatever, then, there's a little bit of a battle there and you can get 8 to 10x, right? But it's revenue multiple, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And the reason is restoration companies have key man risk. They're not as scalable. They're unsexy, yada, yada. And then tech companies are, literally you could license stuff in perpetuity. They're very scalable. Well, the markets have kind of given up a little bit on the tech dream because there's been a lot of IPOs that haven't been happening. It's been very illiquid and stuff like that. And now there's like this demand for something in the middle. Cody Sanchez came out with Main Street Millionaire, right? There's all these trends of blue collar, of real world, unsexy businesses.
Yeah.
And what AI is allowing us to do is create a tech-enabled restoration company that's like the intersection of a software company and a restoration company. And those companies are going to be a lot more efficient. The revenue per employee is going to be a lot higher, which one makes restoration employees be compensated a lot more like software employees, which is killer. Like I have a dream we can get restoration technicians making 150 to 200K per year. And actually some companies have mastered that. And then two, the wealth that's going to be built in the space is crazy because I believe that a tech-enabled company will trade at 10 to 20x EBITDA. And actually, I've seen some data points and may or may not have had a transaction happen in my portfolio around that price. So essentially, what tech-enabled means is not just buying a system like Albi, where it's a central source of truth, or Encircle or Matterport or whatever, but utilizing AI to start replacing the broccoli off of employees' plates. So for example, you use ChatGPT to create a lot of these questions that you asked and they were spot on and you worked and tinkered with it. It's not like you copied and pasted, but what would have taken you 5 hours of broccoli and research, you were able to do in probably half an hour to an hour, right?
Yep.
So if we could start doing that, we could start having employees make sure that stuff gets done. Them to do less broccoli, more chocolate. They're more lit up. They're more passionate. They're showing up differently. Our EBITDA margins start going up. And there's also an aspect and an element of scalability and of redundancy within the business because the AI bots that we build can do stuff over and over and over again. And like stuff that we're doing right now, like for example, the simple tasks that don't affect externally, for example, auditing files. No job file coordinators loves auditing files, so it never gets done, right? But that's very important to the business. You can create AI bots to basically look at every single file, spit out the files that are not filing in compliance. Coaching, sales coaching, analyzing coaching calls, analyzing messages within the CRM and being able to give tips there, right? That could be done by AI. Voice is getting there, right? There's a company called Distance.ai that's doing AI voice answering. And actually the other day I called an HVAC company. I was speaking with Janelle, which was an AI bot, and she did everything perfectly. And it's only getting better, right?
We've got one of those in our space. I have a client that is using one. It's wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
It's awesome, right? So if we could start taking the broccoli off our peeps plates, we could get even leaner and meaner. Even a multiple goes up. Everything's a lot more scalable. Our company is now worth a lot more than it was before. And you could start an equity pool now and say, hey, look, I'll just take the 8X. And then if I sell it for 14X, that 6X, I'll just give it back to my employees. And the lifestyles of the employees goes up. The quality of employees goes up. The amount of money that our employees make goes up. And it's just such a cool thing.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's great.
Very cool. Very cool. So in today's world, today's environment, what's the big gap in restoration tech?
I think, and I mean, this is a little self-promotional, but I think all-in-one open API is the gap, right? So if you are to subscribe to the idea of, hey, look, I want to start building AI agents and such, you're going to need a source of truth with all your data, meaning your customer data and your project data and stuff like that, for that AI to go in and interact with that data to then do all those outputs. And because of the fact that, certain providers within our industry have decided to be closed off, you can't really get those AI bots to talk to them. So I think that's like a huge challenge, and a lot of restorers don't understand it, right? I see restorers purchasing software that's closed off, but it's like, man, if I can't talk to my data, right, and I can't bolt on other things to help solve problems, right, I'm very, very stuck. So that's one of the key things. And then just in general, kind of sympathizing with those companies. There's not a lot of money that's been pouring into restoration tech, and it takes a lot of money to build stuff. Like, we're probably $15 million deep into building Albi, and we're still not there. You know what I mean? The reason why I think a lot has lagged behind is also because there's just not a lot of money that has been poured into the industry. And also, when Restorer sees $1,000 a month for software, they also balk at that price because the adjusters are beating them on price. So they're going to beat their vendors down on price. But
the simple answer to this that I think we've kind of established, the $1,000 software price can easily be recouped with a more independent mindset and not being controlled by those outside pricing bots, we'll call them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's so many upsides with the independent mindset. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not going to take deductible up front because of credit card fees. I'm like, dude, like your cost of carrying that deductible is like 9 to 10% if you're waiting X amount of days, right? Like, get it up front, pay the 3%,
Well, and to go back to your buddy Dan Martell's whole philosophy, buy back your time. That 3% is nothing in terms of efficiency.
Absolutely.
So, crazy. That one is never, even when I had my own company, I was like, you know what? I need the cash flow. I want the cash flow. That 3% is just the cost of doing business. If you need to, if it's that big of a deal, then just bake it into your bill. So,
exactly.
If contractors embrace the right tools tomorrow, what problem, from your perspective in the technology space, could be solved the fastest?
I think the payment problem. If every contractor went to, so check this out. If every restoration contractor went and applied, and they're on the market right now too, like WiseTech, Green Sky, they're a little expensive. I'm trying to find a way to bring the price down, right? You end up paying whatever 10 to 15% of dealer fees, and the homeowner ends up having to pay some amount. But if every restoration contractor on the market today decided, hey, I do not identify with the claims ecosystem, I go write an estimate for $10,000, finance it via Green Sky or WiseTech, it's perfect. Like, it will change our industry completely, because homeowner now has a $10,000 bill, cost incurred. They have an $800 a month payment that they're just making to Green Sky, WiseTech, whatever. They go with their cost incurred bill to the insurance company. Insurance company could choose to try to fight it, but at the end of the day, they're going to lose because it's true cost incurred. Contractor gets their money day zero, right? So I'll give up 5 to 10% to get day zero because I'm paying 5 to 10% for my offshore estimating company to write down all that stuff and then go beat up the adjuster and adjust my bill in a different way, right? And it makes the industry perfect. And then what I think is going to happen is the insurance companies are going to realize, okay, we got to look internally for our cost savings. Because here's the deal. Restorers on average do no more EBITDA than the average plumber, HVAC person, electrician. So back to your point of fair and reasonable, I think you used, we're very fair and reasonable. We're no different in our pricing methodologies. And sure, we drive nice trucks if we're successful or whatever, but like we're not gouging the insurance company by any means. And perhaps
most
exactly.
There are some bad actors.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we're on record saying that.
Yes. Yeah. Generalizing things, right? So it's like, okay, well, now we can't beat up the contractors anymore. What are we going to do as insurance to solve our problem of our profits are low? Because it's a true problem. Like insurance is pretty messed up. They're not making money, and they're not making money because their supply chain's all effed up. For every one technician that's doing the work, we now have like 15 to 20 people scrambling around, adjusting things, and so freaking inefficient. Like the Big Red still operates out of DOS to write insurance policies. Your insurance agent from Big Red has a green and black screen that they go into to go look up property information. It's bananas.
Wow.
So yeah, that will solve all of our problems. Like if we as an industry could truly band together, and if we truly had a restoration industry association, and on that stage, we literally say, hey, as an industry association, we are giving you guys this financing tool, go use it. That'll work perfectly. Because right now, the number one objective is, well, what if that other contractor comes in and says they'll bill insurance? And that's a self-limiting belief too. You're just not good enough of a salesperson. But if the entire industry did it, checkmate. Like it would be, and I think it's going to get there. There's large private equity companies that are actively, that have done roll-ups that are actively moving to that model too, which is really cool to see. You know, the big guys are not moving to carrier mandated. They're actually staying independent, and there's a lot that are tinkering with financial solutions like those. So
interesting. You know, we have a broad spectrum of clients in terms of, you know, annual income, things like that. And that's a normal metric that we use to judge the size of a company. But on small to medium size restoration companies who offer financing, but they can count on one hand how many times external financing is used. Some of that is a sales problem, to your point. Some of it, I think people just decide not to go that route. And I find that very interesting. It's a simple proposition. It's pretty easy, pretty seamless. But for some reason they choose not to utilize that. So I've found that interesting. I was just wondering if you've seen that as well.
Yeah. It's all a status quo bias. So I coached a company that started up in Seattle, went $0 to $5 million within 3 years, all cash on delivery, QuickBooks, no financing even, right? So I think it's just a mindset thing. And it's, again, like I was saying, the status quo is dying. But and it also doesn't have to be either or. Like we don't have to paint this dichotomy here where it's like you either finance or not. Start out with a $10,000 invoice financed and run the sales process there. Work your way down to where, worst case scenario, you have a work off with the $10,000 price on it, which is actual material consideration, right? Somewhere in the middle, you've gotten the deductible as a deposit. And then best case scenario, you got cash paid up front. Best case scenarios, you got it financed. But people don't understand the value it brings. So check this out. If you as a restorer go in and sell somebody on an insurance job with a 0% financing option, you're actually doing that consumer a huge favor. Because check this out. $10,000 job, 0% interest, $800 a month. Homeowner gets that $10,000 check. Or let's say they screw them over and they get a $9,000 check, right? That homeowner now has $9,000 that they can go refinance some bad debt with. And the average homeowner has some bad debt, right? Or they can go to Disney with that money. Like they could choose whatever they want to do with that, right? But if you understand, like you could value stack this on top. It's like homeowner. We can get the work started today. We can do everything all at once, right? You're on the hook for this. Hey, we have pre-approved you. It's $800 a month. You're also now not in the position where you have to bow down to your insurance company. Will my insurance company pay? Will my insurance company not pay? I want to get everything done by Christmas so I can get, Susie's birthday party done or whatever. And it's a value stack. So I think restorers just need to learn a little bit how to sell. And that's actually, with or without financing, that's actually a big fundamental problem in the restoration industry. People don't know how to sell in the field.
and not sales in terms of closing jobs, but helping clients or policyholders understand the whole onboarding process in the right way. So, what's something that you wish you had known when you got started, as we kind of wrap this up, just to kind of bring it home a little bit?
That insurance doesn't have leverage, and this is not the insurance claim industry. I kid you not. All right, that you don't have to use Xactimate. Okay. Learning Xactimate was a pain in the butt, and I'm an Xactimate certified trainer and all that. I love the program, but like, there was no need for my dad and I to play the insurance game early on. There was no need for us to have second guess whether it was a success to get to $3 million a year or not, because our bank account was negative. It could have all been wiped away had we just, somebody told us like, dude, you have permission, you could swipe a credit card in the field. And yeah, I wish I would have known that early on. I think we would have been unstoppable.
Yeah, keep it super simple. Yeah.
And it's easier to do when you're small, because when you're small, you have no overhead. You could pick whatever jobs you want to do. You walk up to Mrs. Jones's house. They say, no, I'm not going to finance. You could say, peace, because you don't have anybody on payroll. You don't have rent to make. You just go back to your house and park your car in the garage and you're good. Right.
Yeah.
Versus when you're bigger, then comes in the, oh man, we have to get these jobs because we have these employee on payroll anyway. So if we don't get that job, we can't pick and choose, and all those other beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. It's so interesting to try to help restorers who have been in it for a while understand that they're still small, but help them understand that you don't have to play that game. It's just such a mind blown moment for them when it starts to click. So that's pretty cool.
Sometimes people just need permission, like a lot of times when we partner with companies at Longview, they're like, wait, we could spend $15,000 a month on online marketing. It's like, yeah, we're going to spend it for you. It's like, you were acquiring leads at like $600 a job, right? It was a no-brainer. Yeah. Let's spend more. But a lot of times restorers just need external validation or external permission. So here's your permission. You can go take deductibles up front, guys. You can go finance. You could choose your money model. It's up to you. No external factor is going to dictate that for you.
Yeah, it all goes back to mindset. So kind of on that topic of mindset, go back to when you were in the field working with your dad. What were some of the things that caused you to burn out? And what did you learn through those? And how's that impacted the clarity that you apparently have now? I mean, it seems like you've got a lot of clarity now.
Yeah, and I wrote a lot of it in my book, but I think one of the things that I did, I guess, wrong, and again, hindsight's 20/20, is not focusing on what I would call the different areas of life. So in high school, we're always taught, it's like, I don't know if you ever heard of the thing of like, get straight A's, have a great looking body, have a hot girlfriend, sleep at night, and have a good relationship with your parents. Pick two, right? I don't know if you've ever heard those things, but like there's these, we're instilled with this thing of like, you can't have everything in the world. Go pick something. So early on, it was the sacrifice of, okay, well, the gym and eating good. Okay, I'm going to sacrifice that to make my business, to make money. And when I have the money, I'll then go do that, right? The girlfriend or the relationships or all that, like F all that, right? 16 hours days, literally like in the truck, let's grind to sacrifice it all. And like, I think that caused like some pretty dark moments in my life. I mean, two dark moments. One was like a mental health episode. And then the other one, actually, I almost died from COVID. So both because I didn't take care of my health, and I didn't take care of my relationships, and I didn't take care of my relationship with my, creator, God. So I think the number one, like, people believe that burnout is all about doing too much. I think burnout is when you treat one area of your life at a specific level and you don't treat the other areas at the same elite level. That was like my big unlock. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a extraordinary entrepreneur and give entrepreneurship your all, but you have to give your health your all too, right? Because the more demanding the business comes, you have to be in a certain shape to be able to handle those demands, right? And you have to be willing to give your family your all, because if you start having that dichotomy where it's like business is running at 100 miles an hour and family's running at 0 miles an hour, that's when stuff just starts breaking, and that's temporary.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's a little bit of it's hard to grasp, because again, people believe everything's linearly, but I think again, you can, like, there is no limit. You can expand beyond every limit. That's just how we're built as human beings. So
very interesting perspective. That's something that I think I've learned in the role that I'm in now, and it's given me the space, I think, to process that, and have, family is extremely important, to my wife and I, and, on many levels. But I worked in a role at one point in my life where I was working 20 hours a day, 4 hours of sleep. Kids were young, waking up in the middle of the night, nauseous from stress. And that experience taught me that there's no money worth that dichotomy that you're referring to, and that balance across all the things that are important is so important. And being able to do that for the last 4 or 5 years has been life-changing. It's been phenomenal. So I'm with you on that one too, man. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Well, let's just wrap this up real quick. It's super cool to hear all the things that we actually align on. It's really cool. Obviously we have some differences, and that's normal. That's life, right? But
what are the differences? Because I don't think we've uncovered any differences.
Well, I think what I was referring to, the big difference kind of is around the
independent.
The independence a little bit, maybe a definition, but I guess I'm thinking back to the conversation about the managed care for the other industries, and you see maybe I misunderstood, but what I heard is that you don't see that being the future of this industry. I think maybe I'm just not convinced of it yet because of the voices that I'm hearing. You obviously have brought a different perspective. I'm certainly open to it. And I think that's the value of having these conversations, is to hear different perspectives. So
how many restoration contractors do you think there are out there? How many?
Independent. Putting a number on that's tough.
Do you think
thousands? Thousands.
Okay. Not tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, just thousands.
I could go as far as tens of thousands. I don't know about hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. So like, again, and this is like where I found the perspective of the voices, right? Yeah. So we got our little pockets of voices, right?
Sure.
What I've realized is the reason we feel the voices are like that is because the industry is so fragmented and not united. On the low end, the lowest study I've seen done by a private equity company showed 15,000 independent, non-franchise, non-PE restoration locations, right? And on the high end, I've heard of 50, right? And I've got a list actually of right in between there, a list that obviously we market to the industry and such. And then there's also another data point that Dash has 10,000 restoration contractors on their platform. Xactimate has a list of contractors that use it, yada, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the most you've seen in a room that are of a vocal room? Because I bet the rooms are only like 500 plus like 200 vendors, right? Like you go to the Experience, you go to RAA, you go to all these rooms. Rebel has 7,000 people in there, but most of them are silent, right? So if you were to look at what the voice is a very small group of people. So that's what I challenge restorers, is to open up their eyes. There's so many like that. That's what was eye-opening at Albi. Like I'm selling restorers doing $10 million plus of revenue. And I'm like, have you heard of the RAA? No. Wait a minute, right? So Warner Cruz, right? JC Restoration, very vocal player. I thought he was super large and stuff like that. They were doing between $20 to $30 million when they sold to Blue Sky. Definitely not large. They had a big, beautiful building because they got it off a tax sale or whatever. And that was the vocal voice. And it's like, yeah, you have to do vendor work, whatever. Chicago Water and Fire, one of my competitors, like $60 million plus. You won't see Ryan Kelly at any restoration event. All independent, all with plumbers, right? So it's like just that perception shift to understand that like the part of the industry that's banded together, the cool kids club that has been created, doesn't really represent the industry, right?
Yeah.
Even Clark and you guys are pretty famous within certain pockets. But if you go in and
weird to hear, but okay, I'll go with you there.
People know who Clark Brown is, right? People know who Andy McCabe is. People know who Jeff Moore is. People know who certain people are. But then if you take that same person, do you know Jeff Moore? Yes or no? And then if you were to poll all 50,000 or 15,000 companies, I bet you very few would know. Even me with a book that sold 10,000 copies, if you were to ask people, do you know who Alex Duta is? Very few people would know.
Sure.
what I'm trying to point out here is like the voices can appear strong when they're within small rooms, but when you take that same voice and amplify it throughout an industry, it suddenly doesn't become as loud.
Interesting point. I received the point, and I'm going to ponder that one. I am going to ponder that. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, man, listen, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been fun getting to know another face in the industry that I see online a lot, just a little bit over the last 59 minutes or so. So I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to more. I hope we can do this again, and maybe we'll cross paths at an event soon.
Oh yeah, sure. Are you on the Experience in Vegas?
I am not. Clark will be there, and he's also going to Memphis to one of the RIA AGA events. So
nice. Cool.
So yeah, he'll be out at those, and I'll be holding down the fort here. So
all right, dude,
take care, man.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me here. See ya.
See ya.